Hello and welcome to Homemade. I'm Chef Krista. Today with our partners from Dole, we are going to be making an amazing Tres Leches Piña Colada cake. I am joined by Mary in the chat. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning. Happy Cake Day, Krista. We're so excited. Tres Leches, Piña Colada, two of my favorite things, I'd say.
Yes, we are going to make this incredible cake, which is, like you said, kind of a combination of all the things we love about pineapple and coconut. This cake was designed and developed to add in tons of healthy ingredients, to take a healthy spin on what might be the first thing that comes to your mind is like a ultra sweet cake, which traditionally it is. And today we're going to add in what we need to balance that sweetness, which is fiber. One of my favorite things. So we're going to add in. We're not going to use refined sugars. We're going to use dates. We are going to use coconut milk as one of our leches. And we are going to highlight this pineapple even more than you could imagine. So if you have questions, put them in the chat, and Mary will toss them out to me. We are going to make a little TV magic here today, so we're going to get started. In the recipe, the very first thing in terms of highlighting the sweetness is that you won't find any refined sugar in that recipe. We're going to use natural sweeteners. If you ever have had a date, one of my favorites, these are some medjool dates that have been pitted, so make sure you go ahead and pit them. We need about 2 cups, and we're going to give them a soak in hot coconut milk. So I've warmed the coconut milk, and we're just going to give it a little bath in the coconut milk to soften our dates. And dates are a great alternative when you need a sweetener. You can do all kinds of things, and you'll see that today. We're going to do a date sweetener in the cake itself, and then almost like a little tiny date syrup on the top of the cake. So we have some coconut milk, softening that, and we're going to let that sit for about 10 minutes while we turn our attention to the star of the show. Yes, Mary.
We have a question right off the bat in the chat. Is it better to buy pitted dates or whole? I normally buy whole and then sort of get my hands sticky to pit them, but do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I love whole dates too because they stay intact and they don't dry out as fast.
It's the dry out.
I should have picked one up and showed you just how sticky it is, but they're great. Dates are so great as an appetizer. You can stuff them with some nuts. You can wrap them in bacon.
I know, always wrap it in bacon. Thank you for that question, Sean. We appreciate it.
Yeah, so definitely get your dates, and a little goes a long way with dates.
Always, yeah.
So, because they are very sweet. And so moving on to the best friend of the date in this recipe is the pineapple. So today we happen to have this gorgeous Dole pineapple, and I want to say when you go and pick out your pineapple from the store, you want it to be heavy for its size, and you want it to be starting to be golden across the bottom here. Another way you can see is if it's ripe is if you can smell the bottom of it, and so you should smell that pineapple smell. And last but not least, a farmer in Puerto Rico where a lot of they're not called plantations anymore, but farms told me that you can tell that a pineapple is ripe by pulling out one of the top little leaves here. And if it comes out really easily, then it's ready. So,
awesome. Could we flip that label right side up? I think this is called a pineapple golden selection, a Dole golden selection pineapple. So I think this is a limited edition that is just in stores and in season right now.
Oh, perfect.
And it is what it says it is. It's a golden
It's
thing.
golden. It's going to be juicier. I mean, I love pineapple in all its forms, and you can tell the difference between where pineapples are grown, I think. But the other fun fact about pineapples is they take about 3 years to grow.
Yeah.
So you have to appreciate that when you choose your pineapple, and you can regrow them yourself. So take this top off, and if you were feeling like a creative gardener, you could stick this in soil and wait patiently for a couple years.
Just a couple years.
I mean, it's a cool plant to put in a pot at your house, right?
That's awesome.
So you could regrow it from that. So we're gonna cut it now. There's lots of ways to take care of a pineapple when you're getting ready. You can definitely go down the sides with your knife and then chop it into quarters and then core it. Some people will then also take the time with a paring knife and pull out all those little eyes. I personally, I'm not really like a one-hit wonder in the kitchen. You know, this is all this tool does is core pineapples, but I find it so helpful that I do recommend it. So it's got very sharp bottom, and you put that right over the core. You can see our core right there, and you put that right over the core. And then the other thing I like to do actually before I start twisting is I put it alongside and see how deep I need to get to the bottom of the pineapple. So check that. It's going to go right to our button there, I'd say. And then we're going to go down and just twist straight down. This is a great job for kids with some guidance because it is sharp. And go all the way down. And it's going to be very juicy as well. And let's see. Almost there. Okay, so now the tricky part here is that you've actually kind of created some suction down in there, and it's very juicy, so just give it a little wiggle as you pull up.
Oh, folks in the chat are loving this. Yes, we all need to invest in a pineapple corer.
And, oh, this is a delightfully juicy one.
Wow!
Look at this. So this is, you know, when you're paying for your prepared food container, this is it. This is what they're doing, like this. So there you go. Oh, I went all the way to the bottom.
Cool.
This is also great now if you were going to serve. So I went all the way to the bottom. If you didn't go to the bottom, you could use this as a serving vessel for a drink or for a smoothie, right?
Fried rice.
For fried rice, or cut it in half and make it into a fruit bowl.
Definitely.
The other fun thing to do with the pineapple, in Jamaica, what they do with pineapple skins is they then simmer them and make a tea with that, with all of this, so that you're really not wasting any part of the pineapple. I've also seen people make, with the skins of the pineapple and some chunks of fresh ginger, they also make a fermented drink, like a ginger bug. So now I took the top off, and then I just, pull that right up off the top like that. And then there's your rings. So super easy and delightful. I don't think we're going to do anything today with our pineapple except admire it. So now you have your rings, and we're going to take about a 9-inch cake pan, and we want to put a little bit of cooking spray in it just to make sure we release. And this is where this recipe really is like, let's take everything we love about pineapple and put it in one place. So it's almost like a pineapple upside down cake plus a tres leches cake plus piña colada. So, yes.
Do you know the fun fact about pineapple being a cluster of berries?
Say that again?
Even though we think of pineapples as a single fruit, one pineapple, two pineapples, apparently, I've just learned this from Dole, a pineapple is actually a cluster of berries that have fused together for our liking.
Fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is cool.
As we're sort of orienting the slices up for the bottom of our upside down cake, around the top.
So I'm just making pretty little spirals here to fill the bottom of the pan.
So that also cores the pineapple and creates rounds. I mean, that's 2 in 1.
Yeah. So
Rita in the chat is saying pineapples as sweetener is such a great idea. I love acidity in my bakes, so they're not too sweet.
Yeah?
Yeah, sweetness can be overwhelming, especially in a tres leches situation, but when something is meant to be this sweet, and then we can sort of switch to more natural sweeteners using pineapple and dates.
Yeah.
Create something magical.
So here we have made our little upside down pattern here. And To make that syrup, again, we're going to do this. So, I will say, don't discard any pineapple because we're going to use that for our pour over. So this is going to get blended, and we will use that shortly to pour over our cake once it's done. And in the meantime, we're also going to make a little syrup here with that date syrup and some lime juice. This is from a lime I squeezed earlier. Date syrup, which is concentrated sugars, basically. The other reason that we're using dates in this recipe is because we're not taking away any of the fiber from the date itself. So put that in there. And then a pinch of cinnamon. So lime, cinnamon, and date. And that's going to go over the top of our pineapple in the pan here. Give that a little stir, because that date syrup is very thick. And date syrup I would use, you can interchange it with maple syrup, but I really like it for baking primarily. Okay, so then just give this a nice pour over your pineapple. And it's not going to cover everything, and that's okay. Alrighty. All right. So that's your pan. It's ready to receive some batter. So let's go ahead and make the batter. We're going to do that with our soaked dates from here. You'll see that they've softened in the coconut milk. And we're going to blend them really quickly with the wet ingredients. So we are using some eggs, but we're not adding sugar from anything that is not sugar in its natural form. From the dates, the sweetness of coconut milk, and we're going to add some vanilla and eggs to this shortly. Just blitz it for about 15 seconds. All right, and then adding in an egg, 2 eggs. And that's also going to help to get those skins to blend a little bit better. And then the next part we're going to add is some vanilla, just to highlight that date flavor. And then we're using 2/3 a cup of olive oil. We really I love baking with olive oil. If you haven't baked a cake with olive oil, you should really try it. It helps the cake stay moist for a long time. It gives a little bit of flavor. Use a mild olive oil, but it gives a really nice flavor.
Could you also use coconut oil for that step as well? We have someone in the chat, Jane, asking.
So the trick with using the coconut oil is that you don't want it to hit any cold ingredients. So we have taken care of that by using our hot milk and hot dates. But you might see the coconut oil congeal a little bit.
Got it.
Coconut oil is also higher in saturated fat. So we're using olive oil, which is lower in saturated fat for the health properties.
Love it.
You can, maybe a blend. And if you don't have olive oil or coconut oil, you can use a vegetable oil if you need to. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
So we are using about 2/3 of a cup, and just scrape down the sides because I can still see all those little edges, and that's okay if we see those bits and pieces of the dates. But I only put in about half of the oil so far. So this is the wet ingredients mix. It smells lovely. It smells like very warm and toasty coconut datey. All right. Let's have a look at that. Oh, that's lovely. Okay, so that's nice and liquidy. We're gonna be putting together our dry ingredients now, and then we'll pour that batter over there and get that baking. So for our dry ingredients here, we have, we're gonna use some whole wheat pastry flour. This is got that whole wheat, so it still has some of the fiber from the wheat grain, and it's also light enough that it's going to give us that cakey texture. And then baking powder, baking soda, a little salt. You have another question?
Yes, folks in the chat are asking if you don't have whole wheat flour, can you use all-purpose? I'm sure most people have that at home, but the nutritional elements of the whole wheat seem to be what matters the most here.
Yeah, and cake flour is often lighter, so if you're going to use all-purpose flour, you would take out a tablespoon or two of the all-purpose flour from the recipe. So it's a little bit lighter.
Thanks for that question.
Yes. And then we're adding, just to be full tropical here, we're adding some lime zest to our cake batter itself.
It's the Piña Colada coming out.
Piña Colada.
A little lime in it.
Put the lime in the coconut. And then make sure that you give your dry goods a little stir. I know some recipes have said, a lot of recipes used to tell you to sift your flours, and I don't have time to sift my flours, and so they have done experiments in the kitchen and tested, and if you just use a whisk through there, it's the equivalent of sifting.
Okay,
so,
quick tip, a whisk could just be the sifter for you. That's
if your recipe asks you to sift, you just put in the whisk instead.
Beautiful.
So there we go. We want all that leavening action, the baking powder and baking soda, to be well dispersed, which we did. And now we're going to add our wet ingredients to our dry. This is classic in baking. We want to add wet to dry and then not overmix, so that we have a nice airy cake. There we go. Get all that goodness in there. So just a couple of turns on your stirring, folding up from the bottom if you'd like, and turning your bowl, and that way you're not really beating this, but you are cutting through the batter and taking out any of those streaks. Okay, so I don't know why, but I have in my mind when I make a cake that it should be stirred within 40 stirs, and that was even less than that, actually. There we go. So no streaks, and that is our batter. It's this beautiful kind of darker color from the natural sugars and from that whole wheat flour in there, and it smells amazing. So we're going to pour that ever so gently over the top of our pineapple and date syrup situation right here. Now, this is a cake that I would consider making. I used to make a tres leches cake for Easter. And it's definitely a little bit of a project because the other two parts that we're about to go into, but it's so beautiful, and the presentation you can really do pretty things with it. So definitely give yourself a little bit of time to make this cake, but it is so delicious.
Krista, when is tres leches cake traditionally eaten?
Say that again?
When is tres leches cake traditionally eaten?
Oh,
for your fam, it's on Easter. I love.
Yeah, I mean it's a staple in most panaderias, like Spanish bakeries, and it was used. Primarily, I think it was invented because they wanted a cake that lasted, that they could sell over a couple of days. So they take this sponge
moist, sweet,
and then just douse it in the sweetness.
Perfect.
I don't know. It's not like a bûche de Noël that has a holiday, but it is definitely a special occasion cake.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. So that's ready to rock and roll, and we'll see this in about 35 minutes. We're gonna put it in the oven. at 350. And it's gonna smell like heaven in here while that's in there. So we have made the cake and the pineapple aspect of this. What we're gonna do now, let that bake for 35 minutes or so at 350, take it out and let it cool. In the meantime, we are gonna make the soak, basically. So the soaking liquid is coconut milk and pineapple that we had pulled out from there. I just blended that pineapple earlier. And this is where this strays dramatically from the traditional tres leches, which would be a combination of all of these different dairy milks going in here. But what we have in here is another 3/4 of a cup of coconut milk, and then we're gonna add in our pineapple to that coconut milk. So you would not add pineapple to a regular dairy. You cannot put pineapple into an animal dairy. It will curdle, it will do strange things.
Yes, it will.
So developing this recipe here at Homemade, they, in conjunction with Dole, this combination of a coconut milk and pineapple blended together, they come together like a piña colada. And the enzymes in the pineapple, if you want to get sciencey about it, which I love to do, is bromelain, and that is the specific to pineapple enzyme that would curdle an animal protein milk, but won't curdle a coconut milk. Fun fact, that same enzyme is anti-inflammatory. So it can really help with pain. It has been studied in Europe and used after oral surgery as a pain reliever, just the enzyme itself. And fun fact, it is also, now this is maybe not evidence-based, this is anecdotal, old wives' tales in the pregnant lady community, but the other thing about pineapple that's said often is if you eat a whole pineapple, you could go into labor. So
labor-inducing, be careful,
labor-inducing, be careful of that bromelain, labor-inducing pineapple. My second child was late, and I did eat a whole pineapple, and it didn't work. So
I'm glad you tried.
So I'm saying old wives' tale because I was told that by a lot of people, but it didn't do the trick.
Yeah. The thing that we do know, the vitamin C content of pineapple is just out of control, and that combined with the anti-inflammatory properties of bromelain, it's like, yeah, this cake is going to taste insane, but it's not. It's the healthy version. That's why we like to.
This cake is going to be delightful. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so doing TV magic, we already have pulled our cake from the oven. Zoop, zoop, zoop. And here we have, I flipped it over so you can see our beautiful pineapples.
Wow, perfectly set.
And it's a nice dark color because of the dates. Don't be alarmed, we didn't burn it. It's just almost a caramelized. So this is where I really feel like, yeah, we made this as a combination of all the things we love to have pineapple. Now what we're gonna do is we have our soak, right, of our pineapple, blended pineapple and coconut milk, and we're gonna poke this all over. Now this is another fun job to have kids in the kitchen do, gently through the pineapple so that you don't pull up the pineapple, but lots and lots of pokes. This is a nice way to add moisture to any cake. So sometimes stay down there. Sometimes I will do this poking on like a tea bread or a tea cake to add moisture, and you can do it with a simple syrup. You could do it. When I was making this reminded me of toffee cakes, and you would actually pour a date syrup over a very datey cake. So you stay down there. This is a baker's trick to keep your cakes moist. This one takes it way over the edge, and we're gonna really soak this. But if you were doing this on a quick bread, you could just add a little bit of poke and soak, and your cake will stay nice and moist longer. So just ever so slowly pour it over so that it's going to absorb into the cake. And because it is whole wheat, like this is going to absorb slower than an all-purpose. If you did use all-purpose, it's going to absorb quite quickly. And then, lovely, lovely. And this might take a few tries, so when I've made this in the past, I'll go ahead and do this sort of first go-round, and then walk away and do something else and come back and soak again, or you can drizzle what has dripped off the sides. Just scoop that back up and drizzle it on there.
That was just a question from the chat. Ruth was asking, can we do this in batches? Because when she tried out this recipe, it took a second for the soak to absorb. So the whole wheat flour, that's why, Ruth.
Yes, that's why. And also just to, of note is that this is a soak that can happen over the course of 4 hours. And we want it to absorb that over the course of those 4 hours all the way up to overnight. So we're going to do TV magic here today, and we're going to continue on with the recipe. But you would want this to soak overnight, and then you would move on to this step here that we're about to do. Okay, so this step is also, unique and fun because you can't tell, or maybe you can. If I just picked this up and showed this to you, you might say, we're gonna make a meringue topping. What do you think this is?
Yeah, that's maybe egg whites, maybe it's melted butter.
Right? No, we are talking about aquafaba here. Aquafaba is the newest, latest and greatest egg alternative, so egg white alternative. So we have found that you can do a lot of things with aquafaba. So aquafaba, if you haven't heard it named that, is actually just the liquid in a can of chickpeas. So
oh yeah,
give that liquid that you normally might drain off, give that a fancy name, and give it a new application in life, right? So we have the aquafaba from a low sodium. It's really important that you not use regular chickpea water here, chickpea, garbanzo bean. I have heard people try it with with a white bean. But for some reason, it really truly is the chickpea. So something about the starch or the makeup of the chickpea water itself works best. If I was getting ahead of that question before it came in.
Exactly.
So we're going to whip this into the whipped topping that traditionally, so the cake would be like that, soaked in goodness, and then it would be slathered in a whipped cream. But we're going to, or a meringue. So I've done this before and turned it into a meringue. So we're gonna give it a little whip.
We're using our finest KitchenAid stand mixer. If we don't have a stand mixer at home, what are some alternatives for folks?
You can definitely beat this by hand.
Yeah.
Yes. So these are the ingredients that are going to go into our aquafaba. Just like using egg whites, we're going to put in a little bit of cream of tartar. That's going to help us stabilize the egg white. I want it to get a little bit frothy. So we're going to give that about 3 to 5 minutes to get it frothy. And then we're going to use powdered sugar. Powdered sugar has, if you didn't already know this, powdered sugar is like super refined sugar with cornstarch added in. So it's another stabilizer. So it's getting foamy here, and I want to add our just wee bit of cream of tartar, about 1/4 teaspoon per half cup. So I had a little more than a half cup there, and we're whipping. I also have found in the past that doing anything with aquafaba is a balancing act, right? You're gonna be whipping it to frothy, but if you whip it too far, then it starts to weep. So watch it, get to those fluffy peaks. And then the fun thing is then you also have a jar of, or a can of chickpeas to use. And you can do so much with chickpeas, like step beyond hummus, you know, go ahead and dry them off really well and crisp them in the oven at the same time, and they're a crunchy, delicious
It's just
snack.
popcorn. It's protein popcorn.
It's protein
That's what I think
popcorn.
about when I eat it. It's perfect.
Yeah, so we're giving this a good whir before I start adding in the powdered sugar.
Looks like someone in the chat is asking, why aquafaba for this? So this is our plant-based, lighter topping option. We wanted to stay in line with Dole's mission to add healthy spins to traditional favorites. It also has fewer calories and has less saturated fat. So it's really like a great vegan whipped cream option. You just need to put a little love into it to make it work.
Yes, you just have to take that leap. And then the other great thing is, if you messed up, it's a can of beans and their water. Like that's
that's
a dollar.
cheap mess up. Exactly,
That's a cheap
exactly.
mess up. So it's getting there, and I'm gonna I want to show you. So it's getting foamy, and I think you can see that how it's changed from that liquid to now it's foamier, but we're not at the peaks of whipped cream yet. So I'm going to keep going, but I'm going to add in just a smidge of the sugar to help it give body. And we'll get ready to do beautiful things to our cake. While that's going, you'll see here, if you want to look at the cake itself, I might have gone heavy on the pineapple because it's not.
Oh no, whatever will we do?
What have I
think
done?
this is the class to do it. If we're going to go heavy on the pineapple, let's do it with our Piña Colada cake.
So I'm going to add another round of this here across the top. And it's soaking into the warm cake. Oh, and look at that. You stepped away for a second, and you can start to see the outline of the beater going through it means that we're getting there. Give that a little bit longer, and I always like to save the vanilla till the end. I also, you could use vanilla bean paste in here. We're almost there. It's really important that whenever you whip egg whites or aquafaba that you're using a completely clean, don't use something that you just did butter in and maybe there's still streaks of butter in it because it won't whip as well. So has to be
calling me out. That is totally something
zero
I would do.
grease in there. Sometimes I will wipe down the bowl itself with some white vinegar to make sure there's nothing left in the grease.
Baking is science, people. Molecules matter.
I'm going to give it a go here. Let's see if we're getting to our peaks. We have soft peaks now. So you can see that on the end of our beater. Put in a little bit more of our powdered sugar and give it. Did you see what time it was when I started? Because I wanted to say exactly how long it took to beat this. It's definitely under.
That's a great question. I want to say it was, 11:30. Maybe we've been doing this at 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's under 5.
It's under 5. I was going to say, I wanted it to be under 10.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, boy. So close. Sorry, I'm standing right over the buzzing mixer. So here's my test. I take the beater off, and I see if the peaks will stand up in the bowl. If you see that.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So we're just about there. Like that.
Great.
I'm going to put it back on to whip the vanilla in and a smidgy of salt. Salt is the flavor amplifier. So the vanilla because I can just hear someone being like, that's still bean water,
Just wait. I know exactly.
It's vanilla and salt, which I didn't bring up here, but that's what you're going to really cover over that bean flavor with. Lovely. Here goes my salt. This is where, you know, even the greatest baking skeptic, if you walked in here.
Come on.
If you walked in here, you'd be like, yeah.
That's whipped cream. That's whipped cream.
That's whipped cream, or that's egg whites. That's a meringue.
Gorgeous.
Sure, I believe it.
Sure, I believe it.
So there is our topping. And we're going to, where's my other spatula? We're going to use this. I'm going to put this here just as a, you know.
A gorgeous display.
It's just proof that it works, right? And so then take your aquafaba and you're going to spread it over the top very gently to keep that form. Oh, hello. This is so pretty. So you're basically adding another layer to keep in the moisture across the top here. And you can get fancy and do pretty little cloud swirls across the top. Where's my swirling cake stand when I need it? Any other questions that we have about this beautiful cake?
Let's see. We have Helen jumping to the end already. How long can this be in the fridge? Like
okay.
we already know that we're going to be eating this for a couple days, and this is the perfect. Oh my gosh, Krista, that looks insane.
So this
so
is
fluffy.
The fluffiest goodness here.
So if we wanted to eat it over the course of several days, not just a one meal event, what would you suggest?
Yeah, so I would say you can make this on Saturday and serve it on Sunday. You might also, I would suggest, especially with this particular recipe, I would suggest that you do the cake and the soak and put that in overnight, and that can stay in the fridge for 2 or 3 days, and then make your aquafaba whipped topping the day of, and then eat it from there. And then, to be really traditional, so this is oftentimes served with cherries. So,
and what kind of cherries are we using today?
These are, if you can find them, some Luxardo cherries that are just in a very delightful syrup. And we'll put one in with the blink. We'll put one in with this stem. And now you're going to ask me to cut this and serve this and taste it? Oh my gosh.
I know. Could you please do us the honor?
So this is your finished cake.
Wow.
I mean, this could be...
That's fluffy.
The fluffiest thing going, right? So because we have the pineapple in there, I am going to suggest that you use a knife to cut it. If you were being really clever, which I wasn't, before putting on the fluffy whipped topping, you could have kind of given yourself like the demarcation lines of where the pineapple were, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be gorgeous and delicious as we slice it. So then if you were making a cake like this for a crowd, I'll tell you another serving tip is to cut it in half like this, and then instead of pie slices, to cut it into, you'll get more slices out of it if you cut this way across. So I'm gonna just have a little taster bite because I know we're cheating and this didn't soak for 4 hours to overnight. It's still gonna be delicioso. So you see our date cake there, and
beautiful.
I think it's nice because we have it to serve it with a little bit extra of our soaking liquid. There we go. I'm gonna have a bite. This is such a treat to be able to have this pineapple upside down, tres leches, piña colada, mashup of goodness.
A little extra sauce in there.
Oh.
What do we think?
Oh my gosh. So it's different. I will warn you right now. It's not like the fluffiest white sponge cake. It is a delicious blend of the dates, the pineapple flavor, the coconut flavor makes it really, really delightful. And this whipped topping, is like a cloud.
Oh, perfect.
It's like a cloud. Not a hint of bean in there. I promise you.
Try it out yourselves.
Not
folks.
a hint of bean in there. This is a delicious way to celebrate the season. For some reason, this is like a spring thing for me, or winter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Try it with these swaps. You will be surprised at how delicious, delightful, how much you can enjoy this version of the cake. It's really, really warm, right? So the other traditional versions might be a little bit saccharine, and this is like a warm sweet with the pineapple brightness in there.
Oh,
so,
I love that description.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for cooking with us. Dole is the friend we love to include in our cooking classes because they're always giving us something new to try. We're adding in all this fiber and naturally sweetened with that pineapple and date. It's just delightful. So I hope you'll join us next time for our veal piccata and green beans recipe. That's on the 10th. You can find this class and all of our classes on demand. Hope your kitchen is your happy place, and we'll see you next time.
See you later. Thanks, everybody.